I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion from Watson. Is
Second.
there a second by Denny? Members in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None are opposed. The minutes are approved. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding ARPA funding requests. You'll see in the packets that we do have a couple this time to consider. Let me switch in the packet here and bring them up. So this month's request that we've received looks like from Community Development, an infill new construction housing program for $600,000 and additional rental units for $500,000. Obviously, affordable housing is one of the acceptable ARPA purposes. And so do any of you have requests about those two projects that we want to hear from Tammy? And Tammy, do you want to walk us through the two projects? Come on up.
Thank you. Which one do you have first? Was it the?
Infill is on
infill?
our
Okay, thank
agenda
you.
first here.
Thank you. As our Affordable Housing Task Force developed a plan of what is needed for the city of Wausau, we're also taking part of a regional housing plan with North Central Planning Commission. And as of last council meeting, it was came out that we really need to put some affordable housing requests into for ARPA. Not that we didn't want to, we were just trying to figure out what would be the best thing. So we came up with these two. The infill new construction, you'll probably remember, we used to work with the technical college to build a house every year.
Yep.
We had federal funds to assist with that, and because the labor was free, we only had to buy materials. We used infill lots throughout the city that we acquired through people. There's a fire and they couldn't do anything with it that we took over. So we were able to build 15 houses that way. Unfortunately, the technical college no longer offers that program, so we kind of stopped because the cost of constructing a house is cost prohibitive sometimes, and now more than ever. So with this request, we actually have several city lots that have been sitting, waiting for us to be able to do something with. Last year, I put out a bid for one house, and we got no responses. I want to do it, market it even more to see if we can get additional houses, single-family houses on these city lots so that we can get them back on the tax roll, create some affordable housing, because these units would be sold to income qualifying households. We also have an opportunity to work with the Community Development Authority. We found out that they could increase their public housing units by 18, which would be amazing. So with part of this plan, we are asking for some ARPA funds to go out and solicit an RFP for architectural services to help what would look good on these city lots. So you'll see in the budget part, ARPA is not going to be used for 100% of it. We have other federal funds that we can partner with. We're just asking that the ARPA funds will be more of a gap financer to help us, because building it is going to cost us a lot more than what we can sell it for in order for it to be affordable for low-income people.
So with 600 and then the other fund sources, how many homes do you get?
Well, that's a great question, because it really depends on construction costs at the time. And we're hoping that if we can move quicker, maybe we can do 2 at a time, recycle some funds, and then do another 2. So we're anticipating probably 4 to 5.
Okay. Okay. And your roughly selling price would be?
Well, unfortunately, with our income guidelines, and you calculate that affordability piece of what a low-income person, typically it's been about 145, 150.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, we want to get people into solutions like that. So we certainly can rank that. And then the other project we have is the additional rental units.
Yeah. This came about with our Affordable Housing Task Force. We worked with North Central Community Action, and we learned that they do something similar in Wisconsin Rapids. They own I can't remember if it's a 6 or 8 unit 6-unit apartment complex. They own it, they operate it. And we started talking to Diane and saying, do you have the capacity of doing something similar here? So it's not actual public housing units that you have to go through our housing authority. It's, they are going to own it. They work with families and individuals that are near homeless, and this is the opportunity to get them lower income housing rental to help with
So
some
is
affordability.
is it transitional then?
It's not transitional.
Okay.
It could be, it could be someone who just needs to go through some programming and then they can better themselves and then they can move on. It could be someone who is on disability and will never make more money
Okay.
and might stay there forever. It really depends on that clientele. It's kind of like our public housing units. I mean,
Sure.
if you need it, it's there.
Okay. Committee's members, any questions for Tammy on either project? Sarah, go ahead.
So on the infill new construction, in the description, it mentioned something about North Central Regional Planning housing study.
Yep.
Yeah, is there more
So-
information about that?
Yeah, you probably remember that we are partnering with North Central Regional Planning along with all Metro Wausau communities to try to put this study together. And if you notice, if you go on the City of Wausau website, there is a housing study that you can click on, and we're going to be promoting that. And there's also going to be an open house, public comment period, listening session that they're going to be promoting or holding August 17th at 5 o'clock here. So put it on your calendar.
So that's the project that we approved in economic development, right?
Correct,
To
correct.
participate with our neighbors? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's exciting that it's moving forward. They've already collected a ton of data. It's pretty interesting stuff. And it's kind of sad.
Did we see like a preview of it in Affordable Housing Task Force, like a couple of the,
We saw, some preliminary data points from that,
It was
and they're
pretty
going to
interesting.
bring the stuff
okay.
so that it,
And so that's August 17th.
August 17th,
That's
yes,
5. Cute.
here. And then they'll be holding other ones throughout, Schofield will have on Weston, all that, but we get to be the first one.
Okay. Questions on the project at all? Doug, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is always one that I've thought was a good one, but I do have some concerns about the infill. And are we targeting specific neighborhoods, or if there was a vacant lot in Eagle Run and Riverview, or we wouldn't go after something like that, would we?
We actually, in our inventory right now, we have 8 single-family infill lots. So we're not going after anymore. We just want to utilize the lots that we have.
But my question is more on lines of neighborhoods that really need some help with potential blight possibilities. I mean,
Do
Well, to
have a-
give you an example.
Do we have a map of where they are? Or roughly where they are?
We have one on South 6th Avenue. It's like the 200 block. Nope, I lied. North 6th Avenue, 201 North 6th Avenue, I think it is. One on 10th Street, on North 10th Street. We have one on Bridge Street. We have one on Jefferson Street, across from the community gardens. We have a couple on 2nd Street over here. And the lots that we own for the community gardens on Jefferson, it's a double lot. Bridge Community maintained that, and I don't know if you noticed that nothing's happening over there. They're giving that back. They don't want to do anything with us anymore. So we're hoping they're going to clean it off, and we were thinking that this might be a great place if we're able to work with North Central Community Action, because it's pretty close to where they live right now. So, and it's a double lot that we could get several units on
So
it.
they are actually, a lot of them are near census tracts where we need stuff.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
okay, that's my concern, good. And then lastly, I'm also concerned about the ability for somebody to flip a home. So we spend $250, sell it for $50, and the person turns around and sells it for $250, and that really,
I'll be
Put a
honest with you,
black
that was a concern of ours too. We usually help with some down payment assistance so that they need to borrow less, and we can put like a second loan on it, which is kind of Habitat does it, where they file in this case, a third mortgage for that gap, so that if they do sell it, they would have to pay us back full amount. It's a way around it.
Well, that
We've
would be
never-
a good way to do it, is to have that loan, but I don't know how it calculates to the bank, but it would be city would hold it, say for 100,000, and you'd forgive 10 every year for 10 years or whatever the number is. But 2, 3, 4 years is not long enough, in my opinion, to allow somebody to flip it for
For profit.
profit.
And, yeah, I'm not going to argue that fact. The interesting part is of the 15 homes, I think maybe 3 of them have sold, which I think is very low, especially with the market right now, because, yeah,
So
they're
the
worth a
original
lot
owners
more.
are still in most of them?
Most of them, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They love the houses.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on that item? Because all we will do is we'll rank those, and it looks like August 1st. You want the rankings in? So that we'll have those to review at our next finance meeting then in 2 weeks.
Can we revisit the home buyer education counseling one too, or no? The one that was sent back to finance?
Yeah, okay, so
yeah, I
it was
never
sent,
put
yep,
that
it was
back.
sent back, and it was actually, it now is sitting on the list. You see the list of,
Yeah.
let me grab the paper packets are easier, so bear with me for just a second with my technology here. Because we had the list of, here they are. So here's the list of the projects that are unfunded at this point, if I can make it a little bigger. The things that are sitting waiting is the homebuyer education, counseling, and closing assistance. The affordable housing improvements and expansion, that was $1 million, we left that wait. Sit-stand desks for the police department, they have a CIP request in for that. Fire station land acquisition, there's a CIP request in for that. And fixed station automated license plate readers, and there's a CIP request in for that too. So the community development 2 projects are the only projects that haven't requested alternate funding. Whether or not that shakes out, that they get those other 3 things, who knows yet, but, I guess ARPA in general is on our agenda, so if you want to talk about the item we got back, we could do that.
Well, and I guess, because I know, Tammy, I don't think you were here the day we debated it.
No,
in the coun-
sorry.
So, I mean, I just sort of want to hear your perspective of it a little bit more. I know we heard you at the council, but.
Yeah, I'll try not to be as passionate as the other night. Why we put this together was a couple of different things. We're really seeing out there, people are jumping into buying houses and not knowing what they're getting themselves into. They don't understand the home buying process. All of a sudden, they're looking at houses and they're told if they don't put an offer in today, you're not going to get it because of how fast things are moving. And we had a person come in today that just has an offer and has no clue what's going on and says, I can't even afford this. What am I doing? And we're like, oh my gosh, this is why we need to get out there and help with the counseling. And the ARPA request for the $500 for the closing costs was an incentive. People don't do education without an incentive, unfortunately. So we thought maybe if we can entice them, get out to the realtors and the brokers and lenders and say, hey, here's an opportunity, get them to us right away. Don't wait until your loan program says that they have to have this prior to closing and you call the week of closing and we got to get them in. It's too late. I mean,
They're too far down the
they're
path
too far
by
down
then.
the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We want to do something to get them in right away. So that was, the idea was to put that carrot out there to say, hey, we got a great program, and buy in the city of Wausau. Yes, I know there's not a lot of houses, but it is what it is, and this program would last about, 3 years. So I'd like to, it's kind of like, people don't like the word pilot program anymore, but it's to see what can we do to help people out there. And if we do show that we have the capacity to do more counseling, we can apply for federal funds to keep the program going.
Well, and my sense when the council referred it back to us was that their intention wasn't that we would change it. It was that we would hold it on our hold list to see what other projects come in and then see how it stacks up against these other opportunities that may yet present themselves for the unencumbered funds. But go ahead, Sarah.
I guess my question too, there's a couple of questions, because we're HUD certified
Housing Counseling Agency, yes.
And one of the only ones in the area.
Only one in
right,
the area.
regionally. So it's very advantageous, I mean, to counsel these potential home buyers because you have the backing, right? And then, I guess my other question, I was wondering how much of a percentage it is left of the 10 million? Like, is it .0001?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It's a very small, like, pittance, really, to throw at this potential program. And right now, I mean, my mortgage is probably like $500 less than what some people are paying for apartments. So if we could get somebody into a mortgage, I mean, granted, rates are going up, but I mean, it would be way more affordable and open up so much more income. So,
There's still a lot less than when I bought our first house.
Well, that's it. And we have the option to send that item back forward again, if you want to send it forward again. But I think, with it coming, if it comes back, I don't know how we would modify it, but if it comes back unmodified too soon, it's going to meet the same fate that it nearly met last time. And, I felt like that was heading on a fast course to failure. So, and that's the thing. If the council shoots it down, it's done. I mean, we can't bring it back in substantially the same form for quite a long time. So, I guess we have to decide, do we want to wait a little bit and, see what other projects come up and hold it on our, in our, like, project bucket here? Or do we want to forward it back? I guess.
I'd move that we forward it back. This is, like Sarah said, it's a fairly small amount. It does have educational value, and I think it has a bigger impact than,
Well, and it might help for us also, I think, to review with the council sooner than later where we are at in the spectrum of ARPA with the total amount that we've got, what we have approved so far, what we actually have spent, and what we have left unencumbered. And that's in our report here, and it does show that, I heard someone say at that council meeting when this came back, well, we only have 4 million of ARPA left. Well, no, we have 10 million of ARPA left, and that was hugely deceiving for people who were very, very concerned. A lot of us, I know, are concerned about the water solution. And, if that's all that was left, a lot of that stuff hits differently, but we have spend down requirements. We need to be done with that in like 2 years. And, we're sitting on, I want to say it says here, what does it say? Like 5.5 million we have earmarked, and we're sitting on 10 million that is, unassigned, basically. And so for the, like you guys said, it's a tiny amount that this represents. And I think, if we're going to send it forward to council again, we should send it forward with an accompanying piece that shows where we're at today with ARPA. What projects have we picked? What projects are we holding? And where are we at with unspent funding and what the timeline is that we have left? So I think if misinformation gets out and people think, well, there's only 4 million left, well, obviously then they're, maybe have a different reaction to something like this. So, do you guys want to send it forward? You can certainly, you can do that. Or, I mean, depending on how we score these two at our next meeting, if we send those forward, do you want to send this with it? I mean, you don't,
because is there any, like, negatives with it, just a little delay? Like, would you be able to start recruiting people for this year?
Oh,
Or-
absolutely.
Okay.
And that's my concern on some of these programs too, especially with new construction or anything. If you hold to wait, we're going to lose a year of construction time. And then that's less that we can do. And I get it that if you try to push this forward and we get denied, then we're stuck in the mud too.
dead in the water then. So-
Yeah. I do have a request. The other one that we put in for the rental, the very first one that got put aside, I know that there were some questions on it, and I was not here to address them. So is it possible to bring that back next time when you have questions on this? I can be available for you at that
In
point.
this committee?
Yes.
Yes, I think we could do some discussion on that project that's sitting in a holding pattern, because we'll be talking about the ranking results on your other two.
Okay.
So, yes, I mean, it's kind of, ARPA's an open item, so anything ARPA, we can certainly talk about under that type of item. So, do you guys want to vote now to move the homebuyer education plan forward to the next council meeting, or do you want to do that at the next meeting with these others?
I think we could just roll in the
Why
the
don't we just
rankings
roll them
together.
in next meeting?
Okay, so we'll,
I'll
go ahead,
withdraw
Doug.
my motion.
Okay, so we'll put a pin in this, knowing that we will likely want to re-forward it then for next time, for our first meeting of August then. Okay, so anything else on these two particular ARPA requests? If not, we'll rank and score them against our matrix, and then we'll entertain the scores at our next meeting. Mr. Alder Gisselman is here, and he wants to talk about ARPA with us for just a second. He's got some comments he wants to make. So Gary, come on up.
Thank you very much, Gary Gilson, 319 Park Avenue, Alder, a person, 5th District. I just want to present to the Finance Committee for funding or ARPA funding or whatever. It came up again last night at Bike and Ped. The need really for a bridge between Barker Stewart Island and the west side of the city of Wausau. It's been talked about in SISM, Bike Ped for many years. It came up again last night. The plan staff as well as the engineering staff were there last night, so they're familiar with it. The last plan was to perhaps hang some kind of a bridge over the railroad bridge connecting those two, the west side and the Barker Stewart, but the railroad at that time nixed that. But we have a new railroad in this city, so but I just want to present that idea as something that I think Bike Ped SISM will be, I think, talking about, and I want to present that idea, that core idea, because I think it works both ways for the west side to come into the east side, especially Riverside Park, not Riverside, River Life Park. I think and for the east siders to go to the west side for Sam's Pizza or whatever, but I think it provides a safe avenue to get people not having to deal with the bridges that sometimes can be tricky for pedestrians and for bicyclers. So I just wanted to present that to the Finance Committee, and maybe we can see this through. But I just thank you very much for the time.
Sure.
And I just want to present that to you. So thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks, Gary. I would be interested in seeing some cost figures on what that would be. At one point, we did have some preliminary numbers for what the train trestle attachment might cost, but it was a long, long time ago. And, one of the ARPA purposes is to activate outdoor spaces and create active public spaces where people can be in open air environments. So, that does kind of fit the bill. If we could do a little research on that. My guess is, like Gary said, the SISM committee would do the legwork, get the information, figure out the numbers, and then make a request if there's one to be made. So, if we're all interested in hearing about that, we can certainly work on it in the other committee and see what fleshes out. So, Mike?
Yep, I'll just shoehorn on that. I would totally be interested in hearing more about that and working on that in committee, because there is biking and walking over Bridge Street and this Stewart Avenue, Scott Street bridges is atrocious.
It's not optimal.
Yeah.
Even though it's striped, and it's just not optimal. So
No, it's-
something that was dedicated to that purpose, that's vehicle-free, would certainly be preferred, I think, for those folks. So
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's put a little push pin in that, knowing that we want to know more, and sit there with that. Okay, that takes us to item number 3, which is discussion and possible action regarding motor pool fund advance purchases. And so the motor pool would like to place its orders early. We all know what supply chain issues are doing. We have Solomon with us from DPW who handles motor pool. Solomon, if you want to come up and talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
So in the memo that I had put in with the packet, you can see that we're pretty much hitting a lot of issues right now. It's across the board, no matter what industry that you're in. Ordering equipment is really, really difficult right now. And the goal here is to be able to order that equipment early, so starting as soon as you guys approve it, until the rest of the year, until the next budget cycle, so that way we can get a head start on it. One thing just to make sure everybody understands, though, that ordering the equipment early doesn't mean that we'll necessarily receive it early. We're hoping to order it early, but we'll most likely receive it either at the same time or even expect delays again or cancellations. We're in such a weird environment right now with this. I've never experienced this. People in this industry a lot longer than I have never experienced this either. And this is what we're asking to do.
Well, in motor pool, being that it is cyclically funded by the departments, I don't think funding is a problem, and if the vehicles are delivered close to on time when they were originally anticipated, we would incur the expense at the time when we expected it anyway, right? So, other than getting the orders out there, what do you guys think? Should we go ahead and order early?
Yes.
Somebody want to move to approve the early purchase?
Just one question.
Go ahead, Doug, sure.
For Mary Ann.
Yep.
What happens when we have twice as much stuff come in than we anticipated budget-wise?
Well, so I don't think that he's anticipating, we don't pay until they come in. So he's anticipating ordering what we would be ordering next year, this year. So those funds would be budgeted by the time they come in. So I'm not anticipating that it would create something, any problems for the motor pool.
One of the,
So
I'm sorry.
I'm wondering what the total amount is, so we're not writing
Oh,
checks.
Well, the total amount that we factor to come in from revenue from all the departments is right around 3.3 million
Yep.
this year. So would we order all of that in advance? Most likely not. We would try to order as much as we can. It takes a long time to plan this stuff, and we're already in July, or at the end of July. One of the biggest issues that we're running into right now is we've ordered equipment last year, and in some cases 2 years ago, and we have to continually ask the finance department to roll over these POs so that the money's still there when the equipment does come in this year. It's there. So the money's already been set aside. It's this continual process of rolling over. What would be nice is to make the order now, establish the PO, and then next year when the funding's actually there and we receive the equipment, they line up together.
All right. And motor pool is funded through chargebacks to all the departments that use the vehicles, including depreciation and mileage. So,
Yes.
so that's not that's not even something that we rank in CIP. It's a cyclical purchase on a replacement schedule. So does anyone want to?
I'd
Go
move
ahead.
to
Approve the
advance
early-
purchase.
Okay. So we have a motion from Denny to approve the early acquisition. Do we have a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is discussion and possible action approving grant agreements for the Neighborhood Investment Fund Grant Program for West Side Battery Redevelopment Project in the amount of $1.75 million. And who has this item? I've got to switch over
I
to it
think
here.
Liz, Randy.
Randy, come on up, Randy.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
So what you have in front of you are two items, and I noticed in the packet, I think they're flipped around, the Gorman project and the CPC project.
Yep.
But you talked about earlier in your meeting about the Arpa funds that the city has. These were funds that were above and beyond those city funds that we were able to obtain through a competitive process. Governor announced last fall that there'd be $200 million in grant awards throughout the state. Ended up being about $212 million. But we were very lucky to receive that money, and what we're doing today as part of this is proving those grant agreements because you didn't approve it when we applied for it,
Sure.
and also proving there'll be a resolution with our partners on this.
Okay, so then this would allow, both of these items would allow us to accept state allocated grant dollars and no levy impact.
Correct, we'd be passing this through to our partners on these projects.
Okay? Committee members, any questions on that?
Is there a timeline on this because we missed the window last year or the developer missed the window? Can you
Yeah, so the project deadlines for this is December 31, 2024. And projects need to be complete by that point, which they're intending that the West Side Battery project would still be completed by that point.
Okay.
Okay? So do we have a motion then to approve the grant agreement for the first project?
I would move.
West Side? Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. Item number 5 is the same arrangement, but that one is for the CPC campus for $1.5 million. Does anyone have questions for Randy on that project? And is there a motion then to
I
approve?
move to approve that campus
The
project.
CPC? Okay, so we've got a motion from Denny to approve the receipt of the grant funds for the CPC campus. Is there a second? Second by Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed. Last item is discussion and possible action on a budget modification for the 2022 budget for capital parking ramp improvements for work on the Sears ramp. Does anybody have questions on that item at all? We've got a little bit of background in our packets on that towards the end here. Okay.
Yeah,
So we would be basically shifting between funds, between the capital projects fund and then 2 of the TID funds to get those repairs made to the ramp. Is there a motion to approve those line item changes? Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. That's the last item on the finance agenda, so I'll take a motion
Move
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Motion from Watson, is there a second? Second by Martins, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, whatever is. All right, we'll stand adjourned, and then in about 5 minutes, your committee of the whole will be ready to convene. We just have to have a little second here to reset and everyone switch seats. Thank you, everybody.